In this week's programme, I am talking with Simon Booth, someone I've investigated with many, many times. Hello, Si, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you
Good.
for inviting me along.
Of course, not a problem. Right, we're going to get straight into it like me and you would have a private chat. Cody and Satori is the latest hot topic in the
Yeah.
paranormal world, right? And it's one of those, it came out as amazing. We just, all we have to do is hold each other's arms and the spirits start to knock out evidence that's really damn detailed. Tell me your opinion on it all.
God, it's to me, it's almost old news, isn't it? It always happens. I mean,
Mm,
you know, everybody going back in there, everybody were amazed with all the evidence that like Most Haunted got, all the
yeah.
evidence that some of the other programs were bringing in, and it could always be debunked. It could always be looked at as that's faked. Somebody's doing it. It is what it is. What you've got to look at is, and I think this is the case. Most people who are in TV, who are doing programs on TV, vast majority of them started out being absolutely 100% genuine, and it was something that they liked to do, and it was something they were interested in, this, that, and other. It then becomes show busy, and you have to then perform for the camera. There has to be something on that show. You can't just sit there and have an hour's worth or 4 hours worth of TV, sit there for like 2 days in the dark with nothing happening. It's and me, as much as I do. Um, the spirits don't perform on cue when you want them to. It'd be great if they did, and this, that, and the other. So that always, when things like this come up, I'm always like, and looking at it, looking at the evidence, seeing what other people have come up with, and this, that, and the other. And I am trying to be kind here, but I just think it's the moment's got to them, the showbiz has got to them. They've been told they have to perform. They want another series out of this. They want, to carry on doing what they're doing. And so they found a way that they thought they could get away with faking it. And I do think at the bottom line, that's what it is. It seems to be that the good shows, the shows that are out there, that tend to not be as exciting visually, tend to not be as exciting when it comes to evidence and things like that. Uh, are left by the wayside. Look at the Clinge brothers. The Clinge brothers had what, two or three series, or we call them series, but
Mm.
2 or 3 seasons of their show. Would it paranormal? What would it call?
I
Paranormal?
can't remember.
I don't know.
That's good, wasn't
But
it? It was
yeah,
good.
that were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like exciting. Not lots happened all the time,
Yeah.
and I think that's the key. Although for people like myself who love the field, who are interested in the field, that's got more to it
Mm.
because there's more substance in what they do, even though you're not getting, answers on request and things like that. There's more substance in what they do than what's going on at the moment, with this fake stuff. It's just a shame. We always come back to it. We always come back to, somebody's sat in the loft knocking. We always come back to, Most Haunted. It were a microphone lead. No, you had a wire that pulled you
Yeah.
upstairs.
Yeah.
You know, and the problem is they're making a TV show, and so you can understand it.
Yeah.
It's a shame because genuinely, I think those people want to do it right and want to show what's going on and this, that, and the other. But they have to have results, or the show don't go out. They don't get the next season. The money stream stops. They're out of a job, whatever you want to call it. And I think that really, at the end of the day, is what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your view?
Well, obviously, spirit knocking. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But
It
it's
works. I've
literally.
heard it. I've been
Well,
there. We've
yeah.
seen it. We've witnessed it. We've both witnessed it.
Mm.
It does happen. I'll put my hand up. Yeah, definitely, definitely. As a skeptic, goodness knows how many years ago that thought it were all absolute tosh.
Mm.
I don't. I've been there. I've heard it. Where's that come from? It's a table there. There's like three people who I trust implicitly stood around the table. Nobody's touching it, and there's knocking coming from that table. So where's it coming from? So it does happen, but it doesn't always happen on cue. In
No.
fact, it rarely happens on cue.
Really. But yeah, they linked hands and immediately there's knocking. And yet everyone's in the room. I'm looking at them going, well, their reactions are as if it's moving around the room. So I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, that's great. You have to put trust in the people who were in the room at the time, and then think about your own experiences. Like you say,
Mm.
on cue is something you very rarely get. So that was like, that's very good. That's too good. That's too. But you just never know, do you? So the next thing I think that happened was they were moved about the place, and the sounds did follow, and I was on board with that. But then, as soon as videos came out where they were actually showing the knees and the legs, and they were moving in time to the,
Yeah.
you're thinking, okay, that's bone, and then he has dodgy bones because he's had cancer. Apparently, his bones are well
Yeah.
affected. And then, look, all you've got to do is take your shoes and socks off or wear shorts or whatever. And it was like, no. What? Why wouldn't you?
I always wore shorts, always.
Mm,
For various reasons, not for the debunking reason, really, but
mm,
I mean, it was so you could feel drafts, you could, etc., etc., temperature changes. But it's a simple thing. Just do it.
mm. But if you
Just do
were
that.
really good at that, right, and then I said, well, all right, then, Si, do it, and then do it with your shoes and socks off now, wouldn't you? If you've got a million people watching, wouldn't you think,
Gosh, you do it.
absolutely?
Just do it.
If you had the
Yeah,
dirtiest socks on, if you had grubby toenails, I'd be
yeah,
like, there you go.
yeah.
But they were
Just
like,
to show that,
no,
you
shall
know,
we do it? No. Why not?
yeah.
Well, we might do it without cameras watching. What?
Well,
That's a
like,
curious, isn't
oh
it?
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's going back to the old table tipping. Well, we'll do it in pitch dark,
Yeah, in the
but
dark,
but
yeah.
we're not got to do it if you've got a little light on or out like this. So
Yeah.
it's got to be as it is. It's just not good. It's not good at all.
But then the video surfaced. Well, even the Project Fear one, where they only had one hand held, and there was sort of another free hand, and it were knocking. Then, and I'm like, well, hang on. I thought all this was we have to hold each other's
We have
hands,
to hold
so you
hands.
have
We've
to
got
hold
to do
a
this.
hand.
Yeah.
And then video surfaced of Cody doing it way before Satori. Okay, now he doesn't have to hold anyone's hands years ago. He's forgotten that. And I just were like, I don't like this anymore. I went from being,
No.
I'll give you a benefit of doubt, to
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
It's I mean, and in fairness, in this field, I don't think there's anything called the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
We've always said, and I've always said, if in doubt, throw
Throw
it
it
out,
out.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
If it could be anything, it's just got to go. It's just got to be, if it can be explained by any other means, even if the chances of it being that are very minimal,
Mm.
then it's still there. That chance is still there that it is that. So it has to go. It has to go out.
Yeah. Right. I've got a story for you. I had an experience this morning.
Go on.
Let's think of the context here. You know how you woke up that morning, we were in York a second time, and you saw people in your bedroom?
I do. Yes.
Right. Well, that's the similar context. I got up this morning. I took Jacob to school at 5:30 in the morning. He went to Cambridge. That's beside the point. I was driving to work around 6 a.m. and wet, dark, raining. Couldn't see,
Mhm.
much. But as I'm driving along, I see a jogger walking the dog, and I see, postman or whatever. And I'm just driving in my own thoughts, listening to a podcast. And there's a woman at the side of the road. She was about late 30s, early 40s, attractive, well turned out. I mean, we're talking like TV commercial, normal, well kept,
Yeah.
woman. She was hunched over doing a dance from foot to foot, staring right at me and smiling. And I was like, when I looked at these legs dancing, I looked, and it was just like the strangest thing. My thought was, what's she doing? But what actually came a second later was absolute terror, and my eyes started to water, and I'm driving along, and it was because my brain took it, or my body took it, as it's aimed at me. I've just seen something just for me, like a warning, like, you know what I mean? And because I'm like, my normal rational brain was like, a woman like that wouldn't be doing that. It felt like it was just for me. We spoke about how many ghosts at the side of the road do you drive past, and they're not actually there, but they
Exactly.
look
Yep.
perfectly. But this was horrible. She's like, I just thought she was sort of stood like that, smiling and going like this. A proper attractive, And I'm like, why? Not a child.
It's like an impossibility, isn't it?
I just my mind couldn't. I didn't feel scared until this wave of terror hit me. Like my body was saying, that is messed up, what you just saw. And it's like something's, I thought I was getting a message.
Yeah.
And because we go something this weekend, and I sort of thought, is that a sign?
You think it might be a warning of some sort?
Yeah.
It might be
I thought if I just
a prelude to something that's coming.
Yeah.
It could well be.
But grinning
Could well
at me.
be.
And then I thought, like kids like play up at the side of the road,
You say, right, you're saying to me, it was aimed at me, or you feel like it were aimed at you. Was she looking directly at you? Was it like, it was, you're in I don't know, watching a play or something, and that person, when you're you feel they're looking and talking directly to you. Were it that sort of thing, or could it have been like she was just...
The honest truth is, I looked at, when I drove past her, I looked in my side mirror rather, and parked cars meant that I couldn't see her.
Yeah.
But there was headlights behind me. So my thought was, is she like a kid, like doing that to all the cars?
Cars that come past,
kids who wave at any car.
Yeah.
I thought if I only could talk to the person behind and say, did you see that woman? But yeah, it was, I don't get scared, ghost hunting, watching horror films.
I've never ever seen you scared. Even at times when
I've been in my eyes.
Even times when I've been scared and unnerved, even in times like that. But I've never ever seen you Dalton Mill. I were absolutely, that got me. Did Dalton Mill, and you were like, no, it's right. It's and it's. And I've never actually seen you in a situation where you felt unnerved. That'll be interesting. Do you feel like there was some sort of message in it? Do you feel that there was some sort of...
I feel it was a threat.
Right, that's interesting.
I feel it was like, you're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like it was to taunt.
Yeah, somebody sort of going,
Yes,
or
exactly that.
Yeah,
exactly that.
So,
But it wasn't a prostitute, far too well groomed for a night woman. Wasn't a drug addict, high on something, because again she was well turned out, average lady. Like I said, dressed in leather pants and like she'd been out on the town or was going out. But this is 6 a.m. Stood dancing around in a.
And what day were it? Were it this morning? Did you say?
This morning.
So we're on Thursday. Wednesday isn't a great night out. It isn't as if she was. We probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't say this on pod, but we call it the walk of shame. Where you see people from night before on the way home, like it's still in the same clothes they've been out in. But on a Thursday morning, I very much doubt that. And then if you were doing
grinning,
if you were doing walk of shame, you're not going to be dancing around outside at road. And
it was just
strange.
so odd that it terrified me. And weirdly, when something lingers with you, Matt, I was like, just the juxtaposition. I thought, I'm talking to Si tonight, and I knew you've had experiences semi-similar. And as I'm doing my job at work, as I'm thinking about it, there was a huge bang next to me, and something had fallen off a shelf. And I'm like, coincidence.
Yeah,
but I jumped. I don't jump.
I know.
And I went, that's how on edge I was.
That's a weird one. I've never seen you in that type of situation. No. Never.
Might be nothing. But then, okay, it's nothing. But why was that woman acting that way? It just doesn't make sense to my brain, you know.
But it's true. I mean that's a big interesting thing that you've brought up there, though. Like, I've got friends who are extremely skeptical, don't believe in anything, and you always get them, and they'll go, "Oh, it's all a load of rubbish. It's all a load of tosh." However, but
Yeah,
I was driving down this road,
yeah.
and the amount of people who do see things when they're driving that are unusual is quite high. I think that might be something worth perhaps doing a poll on, or
Well,
or
tomorrow I'm going to
something like
park
that.
up. I'm going to take a
Yeah,
photo of that exact. That's what I didn't mention. I mentioned it to my sister earlier. There's bollards, 2 or 3 bollards, and her legs were moving in a fashion my mind said to move like that. Is she actually perched a bum on one of the bollards so her legs can almost defy gravity? She wasn't.
right.
You know what I mean? It was something unworldly or otherworldly
Almost
about
like one of
it.
them Russian Cossack dancer type things.
What that go like that?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I spider lady.
Wow,
Yeah. Anyway,
that is
it's logs now. We've logged it.
strange. Now,
Yeah.
who are you investigating with at the
Oh,
weekend?
it's just we're just investigation number 1 here where I am.
All right, okay. Is Becky coming to
Yeah.
that?
Hopefully,
All
hopefully,
right, and you've already mentioned it to her. I was
I've
just,
mentioned it to her and you
yeah,
now. That's
yeah.
it.
I was just wondering if perhaps you need to keep it quiet from everybody else and just see what comes up.
The reason that I mentioned it to Becky was that she messaged me out of the blue saying, "Oh, something really weird's happened," and I was like, "Here we go." Everyone, I'm just waiting
Right.
for 2 more people to say, "Oh, something weird," because there's only, this is
Yeah.
recorded, so nobody but you and Becky know.
No,
Yeah.
that is weird because everything's been quiet on my front.
Right.
I had some knocking the other morning
Mm,
when Liz had gone to work, and sounded like somebody knocking on the front door again. But
mm,
it could have been somebody next door, or it could have been,
yeah.
I'm not,
Mm,
because it wasn't like in the middle of the night or all, but it did sound like my front door, and it did sound like somebody were knocking. But
mm,
other than that, everything's been absolutely really, really quiet, to be honest with you.
yeah. Okay.
On that sense.
That's good.
Except, and I know this is on. You've just reminded me, but I've got a grandson who's 2.5, and we spend a lot of time. He spends a lot of time with me, and we just play. We just play, and he does keep looking at our front door.
Mm,
And he does, and it's like, oh, as if he's seen something.
yeah.
I said to him the other day, I said, "What's up?" He says, "It's that man."
Did he say that?
Yeah,
Whoa.
I said, "It's that man." I says, "Which man?" He says, It's that man." I says, "He big, little,
Yeah.
big man, big man."
Mm,
Like, and he's like that, and then he just carries on playing, and I just
yeah.
thought that's a little bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit, but he wasn't scared. It wasn't as if
No.
he were. It was just like someone caught corner of his eye and he was distracted. And I've seen him do it once or twice,
Yeah.
and that's why I asked.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not going to start putting things in his head or
No.
out like that. It was just like, which is it's quite odd, really. But
Yeah.
I'll be keeping my eye on that one.
I've been watching
So
quite a lot of other teams asking for guests on here, and I've noticed that so few people do Ouija boards on telly or on Teams or even in their own. It's like that. Surely that's the fastest way to find out whether it's real or not.
it is. I agree, and I agree now. But when we first met, I were very, very, very opposed. Well, I wouldn't say
Mm.
opposed, but I was like,
Yeah, that wasn't your
no,
deal, was it?
you don't do. No, it's not what you do.
Mm.
And there's so much scaremongering out there about them as well. And in fairness, though, you do have to use them correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can frighten yourself senseless with them otherwise,
Mm.
or somebody on the other side can have a right laugh with you. You
Yeah, you
know,
can be vulnerable. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
In that sense. So as long as you use them right, it's just a tool, It's just,
just a
you
tool.
know,
Yeah.
you know,
Speaking
it's
of tools, we bought an SB7, a spirit box, which is the radio that just scans.
yeah.
I've tried it probably half a dozen times, and I only get radio stations out of it. I mean, there's no question marks over anything that comes through that thing. And yet, when I see other people do it, and I'm not going down there faking
No,
it, but I see them and go, "That was great. That was good."
I've seen that, and I've seen them, and I've been tempted to buy. And then I've thought, and I've sat there, and I'm like, well, I'm not being funny. if spirits can manipulate radio waves, if they can manipulate sound, if they can do that, why can't they just sit there with a speaker on white noise and say,
Yeah.
right, manipulate? Surely it's easier for the spirit because it's all on one
Yeah.
frequency.
Yeah. So you could just alter that and say a word or try and
Yeah,
say something. You'll notice,
yeah,
won't you? Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
That's my philosophy on it, and it's one of them. It's just up for interpretation again, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and when stuff like that's up for interpretation, it's you never know what's right and what isn't right. You know?
Yeah. But I'm thinking of just leaving it on the white noise for the whole like 2 hours or whatever in
Yeah.
the background and thinking, well, that shouldn't change.
No.
You know,
No.
and seeing. So can we talk about what we haven't really addressed properly? When you and I investigated the police station cells
Yeah.
the last time, you walked into a room, and I've never seen you in quite the state. You just felt like you couldn't go in,
I couldn't go
and
in.
then you were sat
Yeah.
down, like pondering what had just happened. You don't think you could process it.
It
So
was
do you want
like
to tell me about that?
it was a medical room, wasn't it? I
It
couldn't
was.
go. It'd been a place that was that had been the medical room, and I went in there, and I just had this utter feeling of despair.
Mm,
Utter. It was just like to the root of me. It was like I was being pushed down. It was like almost physically pushed down, but it was like it was just horrible. There was something, someone. It was like it was transmitting it to me. This is how I feel. And it was just horrible,
mm,
horrible. And it was like there were not. I can feel it now. I'm tingling
mm.
now thinking
Yeah.
about it. And what I think what upset me, or what really got to me, is it was an horrible thing to actually feel, but there was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could do to help whatever were there. There
Mm,
was nothing I could do to try and alleviate that despair. It was just an impossible situation. I mean, you know for a fact we've gone to places, and there's been spirits that have been upset at things,
yeah.
and this, that, and other. And sometimes we can come to a compromise. Sometimes we can help them out. Sometimes we can make them see a different way. Sometimes we can help them move on.
Mm.
You know, but there were no end to this. I'd almost blotted it out. You've just reminded me about it. And I think
Well, I just know
you know,
I've never seen you like that, and
yeah,
you were sat down, and you just try to process. Yeah, you were saying I've never felt anything like that, Chris, in
no,
all the years we've been doing it.
no, I don't know what else you could, or how else I could explain it. It would just, I had the impression it were just one or just a single,
Mm. It was a
but
prison, don't forget. I
yeah,
mean,
it was,
it
but it
wasn't
were
really a
just,
medical room, was it? That was a
it,
stage.
it were just utter despair. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, most people know I've had a bit of a dodgy ticker problem and stuff like this, and this, that, and other. And there was a point when I was in hospital, I was thinking, that's it,
Mm.
that's me going. I'm off, and I didn't feel as despair as that.
Yeah.
You know, that
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
it was just like I were almost happy compared to that.
Look, we've watched CCTV footage for hours and never caught anything other than dust.
Nothing at all.
What would you
Insects.
say? What would you say is the better way to catch a spirit? I mean, I know, yeah, there's not really an answer to this. To have a normal camera and be a torch in the dark, do you think you get a better shot of a spirit that way, or do you think a night vision camera would give you some sort of unseen? Because I don't know my opinion is, but do you think one would really more likely capture a spirit than another?
Do
Or
you know, so the only one that I've seen that we captured that really piqued my curiosity, and I don't know if you remember this, it was when we were doing Jam on Top,
yeah.
and we were sat down, and it was like we caught a square orb or a piece of paper that fluttered
Oh yeah, Square
down,
Orb rings a
and
bell.
then
Yeah.
it went, but it was like it was a beer mat sort of size,
Yes, it
but
was.
it was
Yeah.
turning, and that was so strange, and that
Yeah.
was. I've also, right, as you know, and I don't want to bring it into this, but be looking at sort of cryptozoology and certain things like that. But as part of that, I've been watching programs about this guy who tries to find really animals that are really hard to film,
Mm.
animals that are thought to be extinct, and then
Yeah.
he proves that they're not extinct anymore, and this, that, and other. And he thinks, and this guy thinks that you certain animals whether it's a sense or whatever, can actually detect the electric pulses or whatever that our equipment give off,
Yeah.
that the digital cameras give off, that the trail cams give off because they've got batteries in them and things like. I mean, I don't know how truthful that is now. But he gets his best shots when he has like these blanket things that he puts over them that are supposed to insulate the equipment,
All
and
right.
it stops it giving off like electromagnetic fields.
Mm.
So you've just got, and that got me thinking, right? And it did get me thinking. Do you think actually we should be sort of learning from the past and going old school and getting some chemical cameras
Mm.
and looking at doing that instead of, is it that we're we're overthinking this somehow and the technology's scaring things off, or this
Yeah.
that, and that? And I know we've always had the theory that they'll use the batteries and they'll do that, but yeah, they do use the batteries. We've been there where they've
Mm.
drained batteries or they've turned machines off
Yeah.
and this, that, and the other. So they know they're there then, don't they? If they can
Mm.
manipulate them, they
Yeah.
know that that camera's there. They know that, I wonder what they're doing with that sort
Yeah.
of thing. Um, whereas if you have an old chemical camera, there's no it's giving off.
Mm.
It'd be harder for anything to detect it. Perhaps we should be looking at that. Perhaps we should be setting some old 35mm cameras up, and stuff like that on stuff.
Yeah. Maybe.
It's something that I've been thinking about.
Mm.
Perhaps that's the way to go. I think we can be overcomplicating stuff a little bit
Mm.
sometimes. And you've always said, and I've always said, the best tool is yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Which leads me into I've been watching a lot of Are You Haunted, which is Phil Wyman, if you remember him,
I
and
do.
basically they go into a place, and because everyone else was using equipment, they thought, well, let's try not. So they'll go in and wait for things to be heard. And I keep saying, well, the team keeps saying to each other, perhaps we should not ask them to put all their focus on the Ouija board and just be like, right, we're going to sit here. You will, do anything you want. The question is kind of, is it better to sit and fish and ask for activity, or is it better to think, right, for the next hour, they know we're here, don't they? We
Yeah,
obviously know. So it's like, do whatever you want, do something, and have them expend the energy in how they see fit.
I think a combination of both.
Mm.
I think it's got to be. I think the only way to find out is to experiment and do a combination of both.
Yeah.
Go when you go to a place, do the first hour of just let them do what they want, and then if you're getting nothing, go
Yeah.
onto the board, or vice versa.
Mm.
I think that they'll probably need to be in a certain mood to do certain things.
Table
And
tipping.
perhaps. Yeah, and perhaps they're not there to perform, are they? And this is
No.
again going back to the faking stuff. They don't perform. They're not there to perform. They're
No.
not there to go on cue. Knock, knock,
Mm-hmm.
knock. I think it needs a rethink, and I do think some of
Yeah.
it needs a rethink.
Yeah.
But again, going back to the like the Clinch brothers, where what they're trying to do is recreate a
Mm.
scenario. So if there'd been an horrendous murder, they'd try and recreate that murder on that scene. So they
Yeah.
do it at the same time, and if it were a 38 Magnum or something that shot, they'd try and get a 38 Magnum to fire, or they'd actually get a sound recording of a 38 Magnum and
Yeah.
blast it.
It's good.
And I
Good,
think
isn't
I
it?
think that's quite a good, way of looking at stuff as well. They looked at things differently.
Yeah. I think that's Singapore theory, isn't it? I think it's called where
Yes,
you
it
reenact
is.
it. Are there any like locations that you're still like, oh, I would love to go to that location?
Do you know something? The ones that get me are when I'm driving along and you'll see somewhere abandoned and you'll think, God, I'd love to get in there. And
Yeah.
and I just, well, for example, I'll be honest with you, I work over in Ripponden, so I head towards Surrey Bridge from Ebden Bridge
Mm.
when I'm going into work. And there's a corner and there's a pub, an abandoned pub that, goodness how long it's been abandoned, called the Go Inn. And every time I pass it, I think there's activity there.
Yeah.
There's activity there. And I think it's probably more places than that famous places, if you know what I mean, that
Mm.
I'd rather go and visit and go and look at. To be perfectly honest with you, if you'd have asked me where would I like to return, Dalton Hill,
Yeah,
but that's an impossibility now. So
yeah, pretty much. It's a shame, isn't it?
um,
But at least we
it
went. At
is,
least we went. I
yeah.
mean, I keep recalling the story that I don't tell very often. We went down in the cellar there, and do you remember it all? We'd gone quite far in, and there was some sort of movie set piece or something.
There were a movie set there. We'd set the Gauss meter up, and we were getting really good answers
Mm.
on the Gauss meter. We were asking questions, and it were flashing yes and no, and this, that, and the other. And we were waiting for somebody, I believe.
The caretaker,
To
and
get it, yeah,
we had two people. I think we all heard him walk in
walking
above us.
around
Yeah,
upstairs,
looking for us.
looking for us, and you could hear him do
Yeah.
do do
You
do
could
do. Quite,
hear a
yeah,
man talking to a woman. I thought he's brought his wife, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know where they are, love."
and they were
You
definitely
know,
walking around, and you
mhm.
could just, and it would just too. And you said, "Oh, I better go and
I'll be
find
down
them."
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
so
don't know we're down here.
you went off, and you came back and says, "Doors are still closed. There's
Nobody
nobody in."
there. Nobody there at all. And I
You
was
know,
like 90% skeptical, really. Then I remember coming down to you, and I was
yeah,
like, "Jesus, we heard
yeah,
that." You know what I
yeah.
mean? That's cool.
That were that place unnerved me, and I did get some really.
Mm.
I think the thing that gets me, and I'll still to this day remember it. We were downstairs just before we left. You know, when the doors burst open, it were almost
Yeah,
like you could,
yeah.
yeah, it's okay, you can leave now. But before the doors burst open, um, and how the doors opened outwards, so it can't have been the wind because the wind had blown them in rather
Mm.
than out. So
Yeah,
unless we had a wind inside the building blowing that way, the doors. But we were all just stood there, and I felt I was in a crowd.
yeah.
And I felt, like when you're stood at a concert or
Hmm.
something like that, and you're all stood like, and I felt hemmed in,
Yeah,
and it was so unnerving. It was like, God, this is really strange.
yeah.
You
I
know,
remember a particular table tipping session up there where we all suddenly, for some reason, we all felt really unsafe and
yes, we
threatened. Just
did.
for table tip, we were like, "This
Yeah,
is violent."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and and it is strange because of all the things we've done, of all the places we've been, it is very unusual that we feel unsafe
yeah.
or unsettled, or
Mm.
even when we get people, spirits swearing at us and threatening us and stuff like that. It's all wind and talk and
Mm.
this, that, and other. But there was one of the places where you did feel that they could have done something if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's that feeling of being out of your depth. We were
Yes,
being schooled.
we were. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we were
Mm.
definitely. But I did feel that if somebody had been picked up and moved across the room, I wouldn't have been surprised in that
Yeah,
place.
I'd agree with you. Yeah.
And that sounds such a bizarre thing, but
Mm.
I would not have been surprised. I'd have gone, there you are. I told you it won't right in here. you
Yeah.
know.
Is there anything you would still think about trying? I know you've not tried Esther's method. I would like to hear you try that. And is there
Yeah.
anything that you would actually like to try?
Um, I, like I said, I was thinking about going more old school. I will miss the gadget man,
Mm.
but I think going old school for me is something that I would like to maybe try and just strip things back.
Alone and blindfold.
Yeah, I'd do that. I've never had a problem with that. I did that down at the drill hall.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that at all. That doesn't bother me. It can make you more perceptive, can't it? If you get rid of some of the
Hmm.
senses, especially your sight or whatever.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. Tell you what, I'd also like to try, and I think it'd be quite an interesting one. Is having more than one location, but as connected somehow, so that we can see if we can get energy or answers from one location in another
Yes.
location.
Which I
And
spoke to a team other day, and we might be able to do it across America.
yeah,
On Halloween, they were talking about us doing it.
but I'd like to do that. I mean,
Mm,
because that's going again, putting my scientific head on. That's quantum physics. That's
mm,
what it is. You know,
sure.
what happens in one place it'll just happen
Yeah.
in the other place, and why not? You know, so
Yeah.
that's something that I would be very interested in having a pop at. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I really would. It's just yeah, there's all sorts, of stuff going on. I have, and I think mainly because of all this fakery and stuff like that, I have moved on a little bit about sort of the stuff that I watch
Mm,
on TV and things like that. And obviously, I take everything with a pinch of salt and stuff like that. But I look at stuff then from a slightly different perspective. So I don't know. Have you seen Blind Frog Ranch? Have
no.
you watched that? It's quite a that is quite a weird thing. It's in the same area as Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker, naturally.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's in the same area. Almost they're almost neighbours. And the story is that there's billions of gold somewhere on their property that were hidden by sort of Incas or whatever, or going back
Oh,
years
yeah.
and years and all this and that. But there's just really strange things happening. Really, really weird stuff happen on that ranch, and a lot of it, looking at it, is paranormal. It's they try and put it down to all sorts of stuff, but when you look at it, it's just paranormal. There's a lot of really strange stuff going on. We need something new. We need the Clinch brothers back. No, but we need something a little bit more real rather
I think we
than
need someone who's really a believer and someone who's a proper scientist and knows about electrical detectors, like, because they're an electrician, and they're like, no,
yeah.
that's bound to go off because your microwave every so often gives off this wave and actually knows what it's detecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And also a show that reviews the bloody footage that they've taken, not just shows you a clip and goes, oh,
Yeah,
look at that. Oh, look at, right, okay. And then forget about it. And then at end of show, they don't go through and review anything.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that really bugs me when
mm,
they don't review things at the end.
yeah,
Is it because it's easily debunked and they don't want to show it again?
yeah. Like
That's
you
what makes
say,
me,
it's all
yeah.
about getting another series, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's what gets me about stuff like that. Some of the old stone tape theory stuff, I'd probably like to look into some of the more residual stuff
mm,
rather than because we've always looked in as a team. And when we've been out, generally we're looking for intelligent hauntings and we're looking for stuff like that. I
yeah,
think some of the residual stuff would be quite interesting to look at as well.
mm,
And I think we got more of that when we did the battlefield paranormal
of
stuff,
course, yeah, yeah,
and that was quite an interesting night. I
yeah,
found that a very interesting night.
mm,
That were years ago now, but
isn't
it
it?
were
Lifetime ago.
I know, but it were really interesting. And that were all residual when you heard horses and stuff like that,
Yes, gunshots.
and things and gunshots and
Yeah.
gunshots. Yeah. Really strange. How about you? Is there that you really, really want to try? Really, if money was no object, what
Oh,
experiment would you do?
being alone in a massive building where I couldn't just run out and my fear was amped up.
Right.
I think I would like to see if my fear made me jump at small noises, get the psychological fear and how I would handle it, and if they would feed off that. Ultimately, I suppose I want to be in a room far away from everyone, ask for a spirit to come, and it happen, and me be like, "There you go. There's my miracle in my life. I heard something, I saw something, and I can't blame it on anybody else." And
Do you think fear can tune you in though as well?
I
Do you think
don't
it? Do you think
know.
it's
I don't
it?
know.
It's there to tune us in sometimes.
But I worry about it psychologically that,
Mm,
like this morning, did I hallucinate through getting up at 4:30, which I
no,
don't normally do? I don't
no,
think I did. I just because
no.
I didn't.
There
I
wouldn't. There
wasn't
wouldn't be that.
thinking about it.
There wouldn't be that much detail. There wouldn't be
No,
that much detail.
my mind
And
wasn't on that. I was just like, "Who's that silly woman?" Then the fear hit me of like, "What is she doing? Why is she looking at me like that?"
well, when you're
Mm,
driving, you're always looking for
yeah,
hazards, and you'll go, "No, what's
mm,
that woman? Bloody
yeah.
hell!" And it's
Well, there's no real
yeah,
traffic, and then all of a sudden there's this woman jumping about, and I'm like, "What?" Yeah,
that is. that is very strange. It is
It
very
just,
strange.
yeah, stooped over, young, staring at me, smiling. What? You know
But
what I mean?
what gets me, and I think what's important with that is that you saw it as a warning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. It was laughing at me,
I've
menacingly.
never I've never known you say I've been warned. I've
I
never
can't
known that.
think what else. It wasn't like it wasn't friendly.
Ah,
You know. Yeah. We'll
how
see.
weird. I'm
Yeah.
really interested in that.
Mm,
That's really good. That's
yeah.
piqued my curiosity as that.
And I
It
did,
really is.
and as much as I was a bit terrified, my rational, I was like, "That's cool." No
Yeah.
matter what that was, that terrified me, and I don't get terrified.
No.
I don't feel things like that, so that I want more. I want, you know what I mean?
And I know exactly what you're saying with that because, like, when my had that experience of the bedroom expanded and this,
Mm,
I still had it together to talk to him.
yeah, yeah,
Can I help you?
yeah,
10 years ago, or whenever I would never have done that. I'd have been out the door.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Like too much, too much. Mm,
yeah.
yeah,
Whereas now and that's the other thing with these programs. If you hear a noise, go to it.
yeah.
Don't run away from it.
No, I'm surprised how many people are scared of the paranormal when they're going looking for ghosts. It's like, hang on,
Yeah.
they're your friends, are they?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. That's what you've got to experience this. And now you're running away.
Yeah.
You know,
If
I can understand it when you see these like security guards going around a place and someone jumps out on them. They're thinking, "Oh Jesus,"
mm,
you know, I'm running off. But if you're there to actually try and document something and to prove that something's there,
yeah,
then you should be like, "Oh yeah, got it.
mm,
Let's do some more." You
yeah.
know, get show us something else.
Si, thanks so much for your
Hey, no,
time. Good to chat.
it's always good to
All
chat.
right.
It's always good to chat, mate. Always.
So, anyway, yeah, thanks again, Si. Thanks for
Hey,
being on.
take care. See you later.
See you later.